So here we are, still on page 35, right column, middle paragraph. And this outlines an argument that, again, you will probably recognize. You spend your time around a university, you will hear people arguing this way, even if you haven't argued in this way yourself. What is it that the advances in science and the arts do for us? Descartes promised that they would give us great power to solve our most pressing and difficult problems. But in the experience of advances in science, what do we use them for? Well, we use them for pleasing things rather than necessary ones. We're all walking around with phones in our pockets, which are miracles of scientific advance. We've all got supercomputers that we take around with us every day, more power than the Space Administration had to send a rocket for the moon, more computing power than the scientists who figured out how to use nuclear energy have. And what do we do with them? Well, we use them to watch funny cat videos. The way we make use of technology, often for us common people, is that we use them for sophisticated arts. But what's the character of those arts? Well, they're formulaic. They are customary. And no one seems to investigate a personal way of doing things, a personal genius. It's quite odd that new technology has given us all cheap tools for cultural products. That we all have GarageBand applications that would allow us to produce complex music. We can use our word processors to arrange a volume of poetry, or to put a novel in a publication quality document. And why is it that great freedom that technology has made available to us is so seldom used? Why is it that these new abilities make us into a herd rather than making us more individual? You may notice a version of this argument in the way people talk about music, that often we complain about other people's taste. We all think that our own taste is idiosyncratic, it's personal, it's true and correct, and maybe we'll grant some of that to our close friends. But we generally have the impression that the great mass of people, most people, don't have their own taste, and unaccountably, without any real reason, they take the mass taste of the society. Maybe their minds are warped by corporations and advertising. We don't know, but it seems to come from the great bulk of society rather than anything personal in people. And it's strange to contemplate how everybody turns out the same in a society that ought to empower individuals. Now, why is this, and why is it happening? Well, it's happening because of the advances of science and the arts, which make us much more conventional and therefore much less sincere and natural and honest. Descartes promised us that scientific society would produce powerful tools to fix our natural problems and satisfy our natural needs. But what seems to happen instead when we have a scientific society is that we try to please the science, we try to please the artifice, the conventions that it makes possible. Instead of using artificial means to live well, we take on the artificial problems that we try to live up to the new conventions of society, and we're pleased with ourselves when we do it, and we're ashamed when we don't do it. And what gets lost here is any connection to our sincere problems, to our natural problems. Remember, those are still there because human nature hasn't improved since the days in which we were simpler and more natural. But we used to think more about our difficulties and try to solve them with virtue. Now we're distracted by our new powers, our new capabilities, and our new conventions. And so we have the problem of never understanding ourselves or others. And this causes, Rousseau says, a cortege of vices, that is a whole parade, a whole line of bad qualities in us. What we've lost are all the things that only virtue can give, all the good things that only virtue can supply for us. Sincere friendships, because we don't know how to evaluate people except by these false conventional standards. We don't actually honor and admire people because we don't know what you would be admired for except these false conventional standards. And we can't live in trust. We've lost the security that we used to have. So now this is a harsh critique of scientific society, and it's up to us to try first to get into our minds the logic of it. Later we can try to decide whether it persuades us, whether it's strong. That is our question for a little while. Who gives a better account of the value and meaning of science, Descartes or Rousseau? But the first thing to do is just to learn the direction of the argument. What's the basic point? What are the fundamental markers that Rousseau puts down so that we can understand what he thinks is good and what he thinks is bad? And that will come to you as you keep studying and get used to the argument.